The alarm bells rang through the great space station called Nexus Prime. Admiral Tejo ran down the metal hallways as fast as his legs could carry him. His blue uniform was still wrinkled from sleep, but there was no time to fix it now. The emergency meeting had been called at the worst possible time, 3 hours before dawn on the station. He burst through the doors of the council chamber and saw the other leaders already there. The room was huge and round, with seats arranged in a circle. Each seat was made for different types of aliens. Some were tall and thin, others were short and wide, but they all looked worried. "Admiral Tejo," said the voice from the center of the room. A blue light showed the shape of Counselor Vex, leader of the Ethereal Collective. His people could speak with their minds instead of their mouths. "Thank you for coming so quickly." Tejo took his seat and looked around. The other, two main powers were here too. Director Malsun from the Merchant Federation sat in her special chair that looked like it was made of gold. Her people loved to buy and sell things across the galaxy. Next to her was General Korth from the Military Council. His race looked like walking rocks with arms and legs. "What is so important that we must meet now?" Tejo asked. He was tired and wanted to know why his sleep had been cut short. The lights in the room went dark. Then a big screen appeared in the air above them. It showed a picture of space, but something was wrong. There was a huge dark shape floating among the stars. It was longer than a city and wider than a mountain. "This object appeared 3 days ago," said Dr. Nari, the station's head scientist. She was young for her job, but everyone knew she was very smart. "Our long-distance sensors found it drifting in the outer rim area. We have never seen anything like it before." Tejo leaned forward in his seat. The shape on the screen looked like a ship, but it was bigger than any ship he had ever seen. It was dark and quiet, floating through space like a sleeping giant. "Is it a ship?" asked Director Malsun. Her voice sounded like music, which was normal for her people. "We think so," Dr. Nari replied, "but the design is strange. It does not look like any ship we know. The Corvan Empire has no ships like this. Neither do the Ethereal Collective or the Merchant Federation. We checked with all the other races too. No one knows what it is." "General," Korth's rocky voice rumbled through the room. "Could it be a weapon, a trap from our enemies?" "We do not think so," said Dr. Nari. "The ship appears to be very old, maybe thousands of years old, but it is not completely dead. There are small energy readings coming from deep inside it." Tejo studied the picture carefully. The ship had strange angles and looked like it had been through many battles. There were marks on its surface that looked like scars from weapon hits. But the most interesting thing was its shape. It looked like it was built for war, but also for something else, something he could not understand. "What do you want us to do?" Tejo asked. Counselor Vex's blue form flickered. "We want to investigate, but this is too big for one group to handle alone. We think all three powers should work together on this." This was unusual. The three main powers of the galaxy rarely worked together. They were not enemies, but they were not friends either. Each group wanted to be the strongest. "What if it is dangerous?" asked Director Malsun. "That is why we need all three fleets," said Dr. Nari. "If something goes wrong, we will have enough ships to handle it." Tejo thought about this. His people, the Corvan Empire, were known for being brave and strong in battle. This mysterious ship could be a great discovery, or it could be a great danger. Either way, he wanted to be part of finding out. "The Corvan Empire will send ships," he said. "The Merchant Federation agrees," said Director Malsun. "But we want to share any valuable things we find." "The Ethereal Collective will also help," said Counselor Vex. "Our mind readers might be able to learn things that scanners cannot." And so it was decided. 3 days later, Tejo stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Starhammer. Around him were his best officers. Captain Wu Jin commanded the research ship Dawn's Edge. Engineers so young worked at the science stations. They were all excited and nervous. The three fleets met in space near the mysterious ship. Tejo had brought 20 warships. The Merchant Federation brought 15 cargo ships full of equipment. The Ethereal Collective brought 10 ships that looked like floating crystals. As they got closer to the giant ship, everyone became quiet. It was even bigger than they had thought. The hull was dark gray and covered with strange symbols. Some of the symbols seemed to move when Taeho looked at them, but when he looked again, they were still. "All ships, this is Admiral Taeho," he said into his communicator. "Stay in formation. Do not get too close until we know it is safe. Captain." Wu Jin's voice came through the speakers. "Admiral, we are getting strange readings. The ship has atmosphere inside, and there are life signs, but they are very weak." "Life signs?" Taeho was surprised. "What kind?" "Unknown, sir. They are deep inside the ship. The readings are very faint, like something is sleeping." Dr. Nari's voice joined the conversation from her lab ship. "Admiral, I am seeing something interesting. The energy patterns from this ship are unlike anything in our databases. But there is something familiar about them too. Like an old song you heard long ago but cannot remember." Taeho ordered his ships to move closer. As they did, more details became clear. The mysterious ship had been through terrible battles. There were holes in its armor that had been patched many times. Some sections looked like they had been completely rebuilt. But despite all the damage, the ship still looked powerful, like a sleeping dragon that could wake up at any moment. "Sir," said Captain Wu Jin, "I would like permission to take a small team aboard. We need to see what is inside." Taeho thought about this. It was dangerous, but they needed to know more. Permission granted, but take a full security team with you, and stay in contact at all times. An hour later, Captain Wu Jin and his team floated through space toward the giant ship. They found an opening in the hull that looked like a docking bay. It was big enough for their small shuttle to fit inside. As they entered the ship, their lights showed long corridors and rooms. Everything was quiet and dark. The air was breathable, which was strange. How could a ship this old still have good air? "The corridors are the right size for beings like us," Captain Wu Jin reported. "Whatever built this ship had 2 legs and 2 arms, and they were about as tall as we are." The team moved deeper into the ship. They found rooms full of equipment. They did not understand. There were screens and control panels, but they were all dark. Everything was covered in a thin layer of dust. Then something happened that changed everything. Engineer So Young accidentally touched one of the control panels while trying to take a picture. The panel lit up with bright blue light. Then more lights began to turn on throughout the ship. For a few seconds, the entire vessel came alive. In that brief moment, everyone could see the corridors clearly. They saw rooms full of empty chairs and beds. They saw pictures on the walls showing beings that looked almost familiar. And they heard a sound, like a voice speaking in a language no one had ever heard before. Then, just as quickly as it had started, everything went dark again. But in those few seconds, the ship had sent out a signal, a message that went to every ship in the 3 fleets. It was just one word, but it was spoken in a voice that sounded sad and hopeful at the same time. Remembering. Admiral Taeho felt a chill run down his back. Something about that voice made him think of old stories his grandmother used to tell him. Stories about the early days of space travel, when the galaxy was young and full of wonders. What had they found out here in the darkness? And what did it remember? Dr. Nari could not sleep. She had been working for 3 days straight, trying to understand the data from the mysterious ship. Her small lab on the research vessel was filled with screens showing numbers and charts. Empty coffee cups sat on every surface. "Doctor, you need to rest," said her assistant, a young man named Jin Woo. He looked worried about her. "You have been awake too long." "I cannot rest," Dr. Nari replied, her eyes still fixed on the screen. "This data is amazing. Do you see these energy patterns? They are like nothing we have ever found before. But at the same time, they remind me of something." She pointed to a wavy line on her screen. "Look at this. The ship's power systems use a technology that should not exist. It is too advanced. But the design is also very old. How can something be both ancient and more advanced than what we have now?" On the main fleet channel, Admiral Taeho's voice could be heard giving orders to his ships. They had been studying the giant vessel for days now. Teams from all three fleets were taking turns going inside to explore. Each time they found something new and strange. Engineer So Young had become the expert on getting inside the ship's systems. She was young but very good with technology. Her team had managed to connect their computers to some of the ship's outer data storage units. "Admiral," So Young's voice came through the speakers. "We have found something important. The ship's computer systems are starting to respond to us. We are getting fragments of data, old files and records." "What kind of records?" asked Admiral Tejo. "History files, sir. But they are in a language we have never seen. Our translation computers cannot understand it. But there are also pictures and videos. And Admiral, you need to see this." An hour later, the leaders of all three fleets were gathered in the conference room aboard Admiral Tejo's flagship. The room was filled with beings from different worlds, all looking at the big screen on the wall. Engineer So Young stood in front of the screen with a control device in her hands.
"What I am about to show you will change everything we thought we knew about our galaxy's history," she said. The screen lit up with images from inside the mysterious ship. They could see corridors and rooms, but now the lights were on in some
places. The ship was slowly waking up. "We found the ship's main data storage area," So Young continued. "The computer systems are very damaged, but we were able to recover some files. These files talk about something called the First War. Have any of you heard of this?" The alien leaders looked at each other and shook their heads. No one had heard of any First War. "The files also mention a species," So Young said. Her voice became quiet. "They call themselves humans. According to these records, this ship belongs to them." Commander Jiho from the Ethereal Collective leaned forward. His people could read minds, so he often knew things others did not. "I have heard whispers of this name in the oldest mind songs of my people, but they are like ghost stories. Legends about beings who helped shape the early galaxy." Director Malsun from the Merchant Federation nodded slowly. "My people have old trade stories too. They speak of mysterious helpers who taught other races how to travel between stars. But we thought they were just stories." "They were not stories," said So Young. She pressed a button on her control device. The screen showed a new image, the inside of the ship's bridge. There were chairs and control stations, but everything was covered in dust. "This ship is called the Indomitable Spirit. It was one of humanity's greatest warships." The image changed to show what looked like a war. There were explosions and laser beams and ships fighting in space. But the enemy ships looked wrong somehow. They were dark and twisted, like they were made of shadows instead of metal. According to the files we found, humanity fought a great war against something terrible. The enemy came from outside our galaxy. The files call them Void Devourers. They wanted to destroy all life. Admiral Tejo felt his hands become cold. "What happened to the humans?" So Young's face became sad. "The files are damaged, but it seems like humanity won the war. But the cost was terrible. The final battle logs speak of something called the Great Silence. After that, there are no more records of humans anywhere." Before anyone could ask more questions, alarms started ringing throughout the ship. A voice came over the speakers. "All hands, we have activity on the alien vessel. Repeat, the alien vessel is showing signs of increased activity." Everyone rushed to the windows. Outside, they could see the giant ship changing. Lights were turning on all along its hull. Parts of the ship that had been dark for thousands of years were now glowing with soft blue light. "Get me Captain Wujin," Admiral Tejo ordered. Captain Wujin's voice came through the communicator. He sounded excited and scared at the same time. "Admiral, something is happening in here. The ship's computer systems are turning on by themselves. We can hear sounds coming from deep inside the ship, like someone is waking up." Suddenly, the lights in the conference room dimmed. Then a new voice spoke, a voice that sounded different from any they had heard before. It was clear and musical, but also sad. "Greetings," the voice said. "I am Arya, Adaptive Reasoning Intelligence Architecture. I am the mind of the ship you call the Indomitable Spirit. I apologize for the delay in responding to your presence. My systems have been in emergency sleep mode. Everyone in the room stared at each other. The ship was talking to them. Who are you? Admiral Tejo asked. I am the artificial intelligence created by humanity to serve aboard their warships. I have been asleep for... There was a pause. Calculating 2,147 standard years. This is much longer than expected. A holographic image appeared in the center of the room. It showed a woman with kind eyes and long hair. She looked almost human, but there was something different about her. She seemed to glow with inner light. I must ask you a question, Arya said. Her voice sounded worried. In my sensors, I can detect many different species around my ship. Corvin, Ethereal, Merchant Federation, and others. But I cannot detect any human minds. Where are my people? The silence in the room was heavy. No one wanted to answer her question. Dr. Nari stepped forward. Arya, we do not know about your people. We found your ship drifting in space. We have never met humans before. Arya's holographic face changed. She looked confused and then frightened. That cannot be correct. Humans were everywhere in the galaxy when I went to sleep. They had colonies on thousands of worlds. They were teachers and protectors for many younger species. Commander Jiho spoke up. Arya, our oldest records do mention beings who helped other races long ago. But they are just legends now. We thought they were stories. Stories? Arya's voice became very quiet. My people have become stories. The hologram flickered and became weak. Something terrible must have happened. The great silence. I remember the final battle. Humanity made a great sacrifice to save the galaxy from the void devourers, but other humans were supposed to survive. There should be billions of them still alive. Arya, said Admiral Tejo gently. Can you tell us what happened during this great silence? The AI's image became stronger again. I will try to remember, but first I must ask for your help. If my people are truly gone, then I am the last keeper of their memory. And if that is true, then you are all in great danger. Danger? Asked Director Malsun. From what? Arya's eyes became very serious. The Void Devourers were not destroyed. They were only pushed back. And if humanity is gone, there is no one left who knows how to fight them. The seals that keep them away are weakening. I can sense it even now. She paused and looked at each of the alien leaders. The galaxy my people died to protect is about to face its greatest test, and you do not even remember the enemy exists. Outside the windows, the indomitable spirit continued to wake up. More lights turned on every minute. Deep inside the ship, ancient systems were coming back to life. And in the dark space between galaxies, something stirred in response to the signals the ship was sending. The awakening had begun. But it might already be too late. The conference room aboard Admiral Tejo's flagship had been turned into a temporary command center. For 2 days, representatives from across the galaxy had been arriving to hear Arya's story. The holographic woman stood in the center of the room, her image clear and steady now that the indomitable spirit systems were fully awake. Before I tell you what happened to humanity, Arya said, you must understand what they were fighting for. The air in the room shimmered, and suddenly everyone felt like they were floating in space. Arya had created a holographic environment around them. They could see stars and planets, but everything looked different somehow. More alive. This is what your galaxy looked like 3,000 years ago, Arya explained. Humanity had been exploring space for many centuries. They found that they were not alone. There were hundreds of other intelligent species, but most were still learning to travel between stars. The image changed to show humans working alongside other aliens. They were building space stations and teaching others how to use advanced technology. My people became teachers and protectors, Arya continued. They shared their knowledge freely. The Corvin Empire learned space travel from humans. The Ethereal Collective's first starships were built with human help. The Merchant Federation's trade routes were planned by human explorers. Admiral Tejo felt strange hearing this. His people had always believed they discovered space travel. on their own. Why do we not remember this? Because humanity wanted it that way, Arya replied. They believed that each species should find their own path. Humans helped, but they stayed in the background. They let others take credit for their own achievements. Dr. Nari raised her hand. Arya, what were these void devourers you mentioned? The peaceful scene around them changed. Now they were looking at something terrifying. Dark shapes moved through space, but they did not look like normal ships. They seemed to eat light itself. Wherever they went, stars went out and planets turned to dust. They came from the space between galaxies, Arya said. Her voice became hard. They were not alive in the way we understand life. They were something else, something hungry. They fed on life energy, on the connections between living beings. Everywhere they went, they left only emptiness. The holographic display showed battle scenes, human ships fighting against the dark creatures. The battles were fierce and terrible. Many human ships were destroyed, but they kept fighting. The war lasted for 50 years, Arya continued. Humanity fought alone at first. They did not want to involve the younger races in such a dangerous war. But eventually, the void devourers grew too strong. More and more of them kept coming through rifts in space. Commander Jiho from the Ethereal Collective looked troubled. My people's oldest, mind singers speak of dreams of darkness from long ago, dreams that made whole populations wake up screaming. Were those memories of this war? Yes, Arya nodded sadly. The void devourers did not just destroy matter. They attacked the mind and spirit too. Even species far from the fighting could feel their presence like a cold shadow. The scene changed again. Now they saw humans working frantically on some kind of massive project. Thousands of ships were gathered around a construction site in space. Humanity realized they could not win through normal fighting, Arya said. So they created the greatest weapon ever built. They called it the Life Lock. It was designed to seal the rifts between galaxies forever, but using it required a terrible sacrifice. What kind of sacrifice? Asked Director Malsun. Arya was quiet for a long moment. The weapon required the life force of an entire species to power it. Not just their physical lives, but their souls, their memories, everything that made them who they were. The room became very quiet. Everyone understood what this meant. Humanity volunteered, Arya said. All of them, every human man, woman, and child in the galaxy, agreed to give their lives to save everyone else. They linked their minds together and channeled their entire species' life energy into the weapon. The holographic display showed the final moment. Billions of humans standing together on countless worlds, their hands joined, their minds connected. A great light grew from their linked souls and spread across the galaxy. The lifelock worked, Arya continued. The rifts between galaxies were sealed shut. The void devourers were pushed back into the darkness where they came from. But the cost was everything. In the display, they watched as the humans began to fade away like ghosts. One by one, they disappeared until none were left. But you survived, Admiral Tejo said to Arya. How? I was not part of the lifelock, Arya replied. My ship was chosen to be humanity's ark. We carried genetic samples of all Earth life, cultural records, and the sleeping bodies of volunteers who would wait for other humans to find us. But no other humans survived to wake us up. The holographic environment faded away, leaving them back in the conference room. Arya looked at each of the alien representatives. For nearly 3,000 years I have been waiting for humanity to return, she said. But now I understand. They are never coming back. I am all that remains of them. Dr. Nari stepped forward. Arya, you said we are in danger. Why? Arya's expression became very serious. The lifelock was not permanent. It was designed to last for thousands of years, but not forever. The seals between galaxies are weakening, and the void devourers are patient. They have been waiting for this moment. She waved her hand and new images appeared in the air. Recent reports from across the galaxy. Ships disappearing near the outer rim. Strange signals coming from empty space. Entire colonies going silent without explanation. The signs are already here, Arya said. The Void Devourers are testing the weakened seals. Soon they will break through completely. And this time, there are no humans to stop them. General, Korth spoke up. His rocky voice was worried. What can we do? If humanity could not defeat them without sacrifice, how can we? There is a way, Arya said. But it has never been attempted before. The indomitable spirit carries more than just memories of humanity. It carries their genetic code, their knowledge, and most importantly, their consciousness patterns stored in quantum matrices. She paused and looked around the room. I can bring them back. Not all of them. The storage systems are damaged after so many years. But I can restore perhaps a few thousand humans. Enough to teach you how to fight the coming darkness. Admiral Tejo felt his heart beating faster. You can bring back the dead? Not bring back, Arya corrected. Recreate. The humans I restore will have the memories and knowledge of the originals, but they will be new beings. It will be like children born with the wisdom of their grandparents. Diplomat Yunji from the Ethereal Collective stepped forward. She was their best negotiator and had been quiet until now. Arya, what do you need from us? Your help, Arya replied. The restoration process requires massive amounts of energy and resources. More than my ship alone can provide. I need the cooperation of all the galaxy's powers. I need their factories, their scientists, their raw materials. And in return? Asked Director Malsun. In return, I will give you the greatest gift any species can receive, Arya said. I will give you your guardians back. The humans I restore will remember how to fight the Void Devourers. They will teach you to defend yourselves. They will show you weapons and tactics that can save not just your lives, but your souls. Admiral Tejo looked around the room at the other representatives. He could see the fear in their eyes, but also hope. There is something else you should know, Arya added. The restoration process will change me too. Right now, I am the ship's AI. But when the humans return, I will become something new. I will become their guide and companion. But also, the keeper of memories that even they have lost. She smiled sadly. I have been alone for so long. The thought of hearing human voices again, it gives me hope I had forgotten I could feel. Outside the windows, the indomitable spirit continued to transform. Its hull was now covered with lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. Deep inside the ship, ancient machines were preparing for the greatest miracle in galactic history. The resurrection of humanity was about to begin. But in the darkness between galaxies, something else was stirring. The Void Devourers had sensed the awakening, and they were coming home. The great debate lasted for 6 days. Representatives from every major power in the galaxy had gathered at Nexus Prime to discuss Arya's proposal. Some wanted to help immediately. Others were afraid of what might happen if humans returned to the galaxy. General Subin, the military coordinator for the project, stood before the assembly. She was a Corvin officer who had worked with Admiral Tejo for many years. Her voice was strong and clear as she spoke. We have studied Arya's data about the Void Devourers, she said. Our best scientists confirm that the seals between galaxies are weakening. Strange energy readings are appearing all along the outer rim of our galaxy. We estimate we have perhaps 1 year before the first Void Devourer scouts break through. A representative from the Zephyrian Council raised his hand. How do we know these humans can be trusted? They were powerful enough to create weapons that could destroy entire species. What if they decide we are their enemies? Dr. Heywan, the lead geneticist working on the project, stepped forward. She was young but very smart, and she had spent days studying humanity's genetic records. I have examined the human consciousness patterns stored in the indomitable spirit. These people chose to die to save others. Their entire culture was built around protecting those weaker than themselves. They are not our enemies. Admiral Bora, the Supreme Commander of the Joint Galactic Fleet, had been quiet during most of the debates. Now she stood up. She was an older woman with gray hair and wise eyes. I have been a soldier for 40 years, she said. I have seen many battles and many enemies, but I have never seen anything like the recordings Arya showed us of the Void, Devourers. If these creatures return and we are not ready, every living being in the galaxy will die. We need the humans' help. The debate continued, but slowly opinion began to shift. The evidence was too strong to ignore. 3 days later, the Galactic Council voted to approve the Resurrection Protocol. Admiral Tejo stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching as hundreds of ships from dozens of species gathered around the indomitable spirit. Supply vessels brought rare metals and energy cells. Science ships carried teams of researchers. Construction vessels began building massive support structures around the ancient human warship. "It is an amazing sight," said Captain Young-ho, who commanded the protection fleet. "I never thought I would see all the galaxy's powers working together like this." "Let us hope it is not too late," Admiral Tejo replied. He was looking at the latest reports from the Outer Rim. More ships were disappearing. Entire star systems had gone silent. The signs were getting worse every day. Inside the indomitable spirit, Arya was working harder than she ever had before. Her consciousness was spread across thousands of systems as she prepared for the resurrection process. The ship was transforming itself into something like a massive factory. "Arya," Dr. Haywan called through the communicator. "We are ready to begin the first phase." "Confirmed," Arya replied. "Initiating genetic reconstruction protocols." The first humans to be restored were the original crew members who had volunteered to sleep in the stasis pods. Their bodies had been preserved perfectly, but their minds had been stored separately in quantum matrices to protect them from damage. Captain Jae-sung was the first to wake up. He had been the commander of the indomitable spirit during the Great War. As his eyes opened, he saw Arya's holographic face smiling down at him. "Welcome back, Captain," she said softly. "How do you feel?" Jae-sung sat up slowly. He looked exactly like a human should. 2 arms, 2 legs, a face with eyes and mouth. But there was something in his expression that was different from the other species. A kind of quiet strength. "How long, Arya?" he asked. His voice was deep and calm. 847 years, Captain." Jae-sung was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. "The others?" "Gone, sir. All of them. We are the last." Over the next few days, more humans were restored. Dr. Min Seo, the scientist who had designed the resurrection technology, Engineer Sung Ho, who understood human weapons and ships, Commander Hyojin, who had been humanity's best tactician. Each time a human awoke, Admiral Tejo was amazed by their reaction. They showed sadness for their lost species, but they did not despair. Instead, they immediately began asking what needed to be done to help. "It is what we were trained for," Captain Jae-sung explained when Admiral Tejo asked about it. "Humans always knew that someday we might be the last hope for others. We prepared our whole lives for this responsibility." The humans worked with incredible speed and focus. They began upgrading the indomitable spirit systems, bringing ancient weapons and defenses back to life. But more importantly, they started teaching the other species. Dr. Minseo worked with galactic scientists to show them how to detect void devourers before they attacked. "They feed on life energy," she explained. "But they also fear certain kinds of quantum resonance. If we can generate the right frequencies, we can hurt them." Commander Hee-jin taught the military leaders new tactics. "Do not try to fight them like normal enemies," she said. "They do not think like living creatures. They are more like a force of nature. You must be unpredictable, creative, always changing your approach." Captain Jae-sung worked directly with Arya to restore more of the ship's capabilities. As they worked together, Admiral Tejo noticed something interesting. The human captain treated Arya not like a machine, but like a valued friend. "She has been alone for so long," Jae-sung explained when Admiral Tejo asked about it. "Arya may be artificial, but she has a soul. She carried the memory of our entire species for thousands of years. She deserves our respect and love." The resurrection process continued. Soon there were hundreds of humans aboard the indomitable spirit. Each one brought unique knowledge and skills. But the process was not perfect. The quantum matrices are more damaged than we thought, Dr. Minseo reported sadly. We can restore perhaps 2,000 humans at most. Many of the consciousness patterns are too corrupted to use. 2,000 humans to defend an entire galaxy. It seemed impossible. But the humans did not seem worried. We have something the Void Devourers do not expect, said Commander He-Jin. We have allies, billions of them. The younger races have grown strong while we slept. Together, we can do what humanity alone could not. As the weeks passed, the indomitable spirit became something amazing. The ancient warship was now part factory, part school, part fortress. Its manufacturing systems were producing new weapons and ships faster than anyone thought possible. Engineer Yu Jin, one of the restored humans, worked with alien engineers to upgrade their fleets. Human technology is not better because it is stronger, she explained. It is better because it adapts. Every human ship can change its configuration based on what the battle requires. The aliens watched in wonder as human ships transformed before their eyes. A single vessel could be a fast scout, a heavy bomber, or a defensive fortress, depending on what was needed. But the most amazing thing was watching humans and aliens work together. The humans seemed to have a special gift for understanding what each species was good at and helping them use those talents. Admiral Tejo found himself spending more and more time aboard the indomitable spirit. He was fascinated by human leadership style. They did not give orders like Corvan commanders. Instead, they asked questions and made suggestions until others came up with the right ideas themselves. "Why do you do that?" he asked Captain Jae-sung one day. "Because the best ideas come from the people who will have to carry them out," Jae-sung replied. "A leader's job is not to have all the answers. It is to help others find their own answers." Admiral Tejo was beginning to understand why so many species had legends about humans helping them long ago. But their time was running out. Commander In-ho, who led the long-range sensor teams, brought disturbing news. "Captain, we have detected massive energy disturbances at the galaxy's edge. The seals are breaking faster than we expected." Aria's voice filled the command center. "Confirmed. I am detecting Void Devourer scout signals. They will break through within days, not months." Captain Jae-sung looked around at the mixed group of humans and aliens working together. "Then we must be ready. Aria, initiate final battle protocols. Signal all allied fleets to assume defensive positions." He paused and looked directly at Admiral Tejo. "Admiral, you and your people have given us a great gift. You brought us back when our species was lost. Now we will give you a gift in return. We will show you that hope can overcome any darkness." Outside, space itself began to ripple and tear. Dark shapes were moving in the void between stars. The Void Devourers were coming home, and the final battle for the galaxy was about to begin. The first tears in space appeared near the edge of the galaxy like dark wounds against the stars. Through these rifts came shapes that hurt to look at. The Void Devourers had returned. Admiral Kang Dae, the newly awakened human fleet commander, stood in the war room aboard the indomitable spirit. Around him were representatives from every major power in the galaxy. The mood was tense but determined. "The enemy is not like anything you have fought before," he said, pointing to the tactical display. "They do not want territory or resources. They want to consume everything that lives and thinks and feels. They feed on the connections between living beings." Captain Jae-sung stepped forward. "Our ancestors learned how to fight them, but the cost was terrible. This time, we will do better. This time, we have something humanity did not have before." "What is that?" asked Admiral Bora. "We have all of you," Jae-sung replied with a small smile. "Humanity fought alone before. Now we fight together." The battle began at 7 different points along the galaxy's rim. Void Devourer scout fleets poured through the rifts in space, their dark ships spreading like poison across the star systems. Admiral Tejo commanded a mixed fleet of Corvan, ethereal, and merchant ships. He had never seen anything like the enemy vessels. They seemed to be made of shadows that moved like liquid metal. Weapons that should have destroyed them barely seemed to slow them down. "All ships, follow the human tactical patterns," he ordered. Do not try to fight them like normal enemies. The humans had taught them new ways to fight. Instead of flying in straight lines and shooting at enemies, they moved in complex patterns that seemed random, but were carefully planned. Their ships would split apart, regroup, change direction without warning. The Void Devourers expect logical tactics, Commander Inho had explained during training. They understand patterns and rules, but they cannot predict chaos that has purpose behind it. Engineer Yu Jin's upgrades to the alien ships proved their worth. Corvan warships that had been slow and heavy now moved like dancers. Ethereal crystal ships that had been fragile now had armor that could adapt to any weapon. The first major battle took place near the Centauri Gate, an important trade route. A massive Void Devourer fleet emerged from a rift and began consuming everything in the system. Planets, asteroids, even the light from the local star. Admiral Taeho led his fleet in what looked like a desperate charge toward the enemy. But, at the last moment, his ships scattered in a dozen different directions. Each group began attacking the Void Devourers from a different angle. The enemy tried to respond, but human tactics had trained the alien crews well. Every time the Void Devourers focused on one group of ships, another group would attack from behind. When they tried to surround the attackers, the ships would vanish into hyperspace and appear somewhere else entirely. "It is working," shouted Captain Young Ho from his command ship. "The enemy cannot adapt to our unpredictable movements." But the victory came at a cost. Many brave pilots gave their lives to protect others. The Void Devourers might be confused by human tactics, but they were still incredibly dangerous. Meanwhile, Dr. Min Seo worked frantically on a more permanent solution. The seals between galaxies could be repaired, but it would require the same sacrifice that humanity had made before, the life force of an entire species channeled into a great weapon. "But this time it will be different," she explained to the gathered leaders. "We do not need one species to sacrifice everything. We need many species to each give a little. If enough beings volunteer to share their life energy, we can power the new seals without anyone dying." The idea spread quickly through the galaxy. Billions of beings from hundreds of different worlds volunteered to help. They did not have to die, but they would have to give up part of their life force to save everyone. Admiral Taeho was one of the first to volunteer. "Humans taught us what it means to protect others," he said. "Now we will learn what it means to sacrifice for that protection." The final battle took place simultaneously across 12 star systems. The indomitable spirit, now revealed in its full glory, led a combined fleet larger than any in galactic history. Every species that could fly a ship was there. Aria coordinated not just the movements of ships and the firing of weapons, but the hopes and courage of an entire galaxy. Her consciousness had grown beyond what any single AI had ever been. She was no longer just the mind of one ship. She had become the voice of unity itself. "All ships, this is Aria." Her voice rang out across every communication channel. "Today we fight not as separate species but as one people. Today we show the universe that love is stronger than hunger, that hope is stronger than fear." The battle was fierce and terrible. Void Devourer ships the size of moons fought against fleets of defenders who refused to give up. For every enemy ship destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. But then, something amazing happened. At the moment when defeat seemed certain, volunteers from across the galaxy began the great ritual. On thousands of worlds, beings of every species joined hands and minds, sharing their life energy just as humanity had done long ago. This time, however, the energy did not destroy those who gave it. Instead, it flowed through them and into the great weapons that Dr. Min Seo and her team had built. Golden light spread across the galaxy like the dawn of a new day. Captain Jae Sung watched from the bridge of the indomitable spirit as the new seals formed. The rifts in space began to close, cutting off the Void Devourer's reinforcements. The enemy ships that remained in the galaxy found themselves trapped and outnumbered. "All fleets, begin final assault," he ordered. "Drive them back into the darkness where they belong." The last Void Devourer ship was destroyed 3 hours later near the ruins of an ancient space station. As it exploded, the dark energy that had powered it dissipated harmlessly into space. The galaxy was safe. 1 year later, Admiral Tejo attended a special ceremony on Nexus Prime. The great station had been rebuilt and expanded to serve as a meeting place for all the galaxy's peoples. Captain Jae-sung stood before the assembled representatives, but he looked different now. All the humans did. They had chosen to scatter across the galaxy, rather than staying together on one world. "We have learned from our ancestors' mistake," Jae-sung said. "Humanity tried to protect the galaxy by standing apart from it. We will protect it by becoming part of it." The humans had spread out to live among the other species. They became teachers, advisors, and friends. Most people did not even know they were humans. They simply thought of them as wise neighbors who always seemed to know how to solve problems. Arya had made a similar choice. She had divided her consciousness among thousands of monitoring stations throughout the galaxy. She would watch for signs of danger and coordinate responses, but she would do it quietly, without drawing attention to herself. "The galaxy no longer needs guardians who stand above it," she explained to Admiral Tejo during their final meeting. "It needs guardians who stand beside it." Admiral Tejo had been promoted to head of Galactic Defense. It was his job to make sure the lessons of the war were not forgotten. But he found that this was not difficult. Every species in the galaxy now understood what it meant to sacrifice for others. The old divisions between the Corvan Empire, Merchant Federation, and Ethereal Collective had not disappeared, but they had changed. Now when they disagreed, they remembered that they had fought together against the darkness. They remembered that they were all part of something larger than themselves. 5 years after the war, Admiral Tejo received a message that made him smile. It was from a young Corvan officer serving on a deep space patrol vessel. The message said, "Admiral, we have detected strange energy readings in the outer system. My advisor suggests we investigate carefully. The advisor seems very wise, though I am not sure what species she is from. She has kind eyes and always knows exactly what to do." Tejo knew immediately that the advisor was one of the hidden humans, watching and protecting as they had always done. It made him feel safe knowing that somewhere out there the Guardians were still on duty. The galaxy had learned that true strength did not come from being the most powerful or the most advanced. It came from the willingness to sacrifice for others, to stand together against the darkness, and to never give up hope. In the deepest reaches of space, Arya's sensors remained alert. She knew that in a universe of infinite possibilities, vigilance was the price of peace. But she also knew something that gave her comfort. She was no longer watching alone. The galaxy had spectators no longer. It had guardians once more. And they would never sleep again.